Hey guys, you know, I don't really like this scenery. I think I'm gonna change actually. That's better. Alright, so in today's video, we are going to be doing something like ranking every single Stanley Kubrick movie ever. Now, I'm not including his short films that he made, because he made a couple of them and they're all like 20 minutes. I never watched them because I didn't care, but I have seen his main 13 movies that he made. Now, this might be a bit of a hot take, but Stanley Kubrick is without a doubt my favorite movie director of all time. There's just something so different and unique and so cool about his movies, and I love a lot of them. I will say that there are only 2 movies on here that I really don't like. Only 2 out of 13, so that goes to show. And you know what? I'm recording here at a public location. People could see me, so I want to get this done pretty quickly. So let's just go to number 13. Okay, so at the number 13 spot, we have Spartacus. Now, this is far and away my least favorite Kubrick movie. This is genuinely the only movie that he made that I genuinely despise. And I know that's probably a bit of a hot take, but I just can't help it. This movie is so freaking boring. It is pretty much 3 hours of walking and talking, and that's not how some people look at it, but that's how I look at it. I was bored and I wanted it to be over like an hour and a half into it, and I was like, how is there still like an hour and 40 minutes left? This is insane. I will say Kirk Douglas gives a great performance, but other than that, nothing in this movie really stood out to me. I thought it was boring and slow, and I really didn't like it. Alright, so up at number 12, we have Fear and Desire. Now, this is what the majority of people would put at their least favorite Kubrick movie, but I don't see it like that. I think Fear and Desire was a debut film that it shows that it was a debut film. Kubrick is still trying to find himself. He's still trying to work out the kinks of a movie, if you will. He's still needing to flesh out his characters more and more. The story structure is just kind of all over the place in this movie. It's not a really interesting story in my opinion, and the pacing, despite only being an hour long, felt much longer than it needed and was. But for a debut film, this thing isn't really that bad. I mean, what do you expect? It's 1953. This thing is old. And Kubrick you can definitely tell that he's definitely learning how to frame shots the way he usually does in some of his later films. But yeah, this movie it's forgettable. All right, so up at number 11, we have Killer's Kiss, which was his second movie directly after Fear and Desire. Now, I actually enjoy this movie. I think it's a decent watch. I don't love it. I don't hate it. It's just a little bit forgettable. It's really just the main romance that really brings this movie down for me. It's just super rushed in my opinion, and I don't think it's all that compelling and believable, if you ask me. I do like the main villain in this. I think like the overarching story about the dude, the obsessed employer, I think that's kind of cool. And I like a lot of the scenes in the ending, but you know, it's definitely way more paced than his first movie, because they're around the same length, and this one definitely feels more like an hour than Fear and Desire did. And you can just definitely tell that this is just a big step up from Fear and Desire. He definitely was able to work on everything that he needed to. And I enjoyed it for what it was, but it's not really a movie I'm ever going to be coming back to. Okay, up at number 10, we have The Killing, which was his third movie. Now, me and my friend actually watched this movie together. It was the final Kubrick movie I had to watch, and I enjoyed it for what it was. I thought the ending was by far the best part about it, but kind of like his other movies, the first act was kind of slow in my eyes. I love robbery movies. Like Bottle Rocket is just such a fun movie, and this is no exception. I think it's just a super fun movie. I don't really have anything to say about it. It's just a fun movie. I like a lot of the characters. It's a fun time for the whole family. Okay, number 9. This is gonna be my first mega hot take, but bear with me. Number 9, I have 2001: A Space Odyssey. Okay. Now, this is my friend Garrison. You guys know him. If you want to see another video with him, watch my 2019 video, the It Movies Ranked, and this is us now. And so he watched Space Odyssey as well, so I'm gonna unclip my mic here so
No.
What do you have to say about it?
It was a pretty good movie. I liked it. It was nice.
What would you rate it out of 5?
Like a 4-star. I give it a 4-star.
Really? I give it a 3.5.
It was decent. It was a good movie. I think it was good. I liked the plot. I liked how it all panned out in the end. Thought it was a solid movie.
That was a solid movie?
Yeah.
All right. So now you're just gonna stand here awkwardly? Do that.
Yeah.
Do that, yeah. So the thing about Space Odyssey for me is that the pacing is incredibly slow. All right, we gotta stop. We gotta stop. The thing about Space Odyssey is that the pacing just wasn't for me. This movie was so long and not a lot happened for quite a big chunk of this movie. Now I think for 1968, this is one of the most impressive and innovative films ever made, and I can certainly understand why people love it so much. Also, when I watched it, something happened that night that was not so good, and I was probably not in the best mindset to watch it. And everyone says that like everyone watches it in IMAX and it changed their lives or whatever. I just watched it on my TV at home, so I mean, maybe that would change if I actually watched it in IMAX whenever I could or would. I don't know. All I know is that I enjoyed this movie for what it was. I think it's super impressive and innovative as hell, but just it wasn't my type of movie in certain areas. I think the ending is super weird and awesome though, and the visuals are absolutely stunning, and that's all I have to say. All right, number 8, we have Lolita, which is probably one of his more controversial movies, especially for 1962. For a movie about a pedophile, however, this thing is actually surprisingly really, really good. I know, putting Lolita over Space Odyssey is a pretty hot take, but I don't care. I thought this movie was excellent. I thought it was weirdly hilarious. Like, there were like multiple times where I just started geeking my booty off because it was just, it was a funny movie. I mean, it wasn't like Strangelove or anything, but I mean, yeah, it was a funny movie. But I really like how this movie never glorified the pedophilia in the movie, and I'm glad it didn't, because it really showcases what a loser and idiot and creep that Humbert really was. I never felt like the movie was trying to get me to feel sympathy for him, and I didn't. I thought he was a loser, which I enjoyed. Thought the acting performances were great. I thought this was an all-around fantastic movie. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. All right, now we're getting into the movies that are really, really good. Starting with Barry Lyndon. And I know people might have this one a little bit higher on their lists, but I mean, it's a 3-hour period piece movie, which, I mean, you saw Spartacus, it didn't pan out too well. So it is a miracle that this thing placed this high. So this movie did look boring, just like Spartacus. The difference between Spartacus is that this movie is actually good. I love the character of Barry Lyndon so much. Barry Lyndon might be one of my favorite Kubrick characters ever. I don't know, Private Joker's really good, but we'll get to that one soon. I love Barry Lyndon. He's just such an interesting character with so many complexities, and I really enjoyed his whole, like, you literally watch his whole life pan out in this movie, which is why it's 3 hours. So much happens in 3 hours that I was engaged and invested through the entire thing. This is probably the best example of Kubrick being phenomenal at pacing his movies, because this movie does not feel like 3 hours. It feels like maybe 2 hours, which I really loved about it. Just the way it's all filmed, it's beautiful. The way that the characters engage with each other is so immersive. The costumes and set design, it literally looks like it is filmed straight out of the 1800s. It is so well made. This movie has so many elements I love about it, but then again, it is a 3-hour period piece, and it's not going to be for everyone. And it does drag ever so slightly in moments. And again, period pieces just aren't really my thing, so I don't really care about period pieces, which is why it's placing this low compared to some of the other ones. But in all doubt, I think this movie is incredible. All right, up at number 6, we have Eyes Wide Shut, which was Kubrick's final movie. This movie was actually released 4 months after his death, which is actually kind of crazy that he didn't get to see all the praises that this movie got. Even though people do hate it, which, you know, I can see why. It's very messy, and it's one of those movies where the audience or the viewer really has to figure out what they feel and what they need to interpret so many things in this movie, because you don't get a lot of answers. And the answers that you do get, you can't even really trust, which I really like. I think Tom Cruise gives a phenomenal performance. I think Nicole Kidman is great. I think this story is so interesting. I mean, it really just dives into the inners of people and how it relates to zoo. Sorry, there's a little bit of an inside joke with that, but I call that word zoo. But I mean, you just really just look at the jealousy, the horniness, just what zoo can bring out of people. It's such an interesting movie that has so many complexities in it. And there's just so much to say about Eyes Wide Shut that I really can't even begin to explain, just because I probably need to watch it more times to really fully understand what this movie is trying to say. And even then, I probably will never. This movie is just really good though, because it's interesting. It makes you think about it after it's done, which I love movies that do that. And that's why I put this at number 6, even though some people might hate me for that. All right, up at number 5, we have Full Metal Jacket, which, wow, Full Metal Jacket. This movie is crazy. The first 45 minutes is some of the best filmmaking and just one of the best little short stories I've ever watched in my life. Like, he could have made that 45 minutes, the first 45 minutes, its own standalone movie, and it would be incredible. Now, I'm not saying that the second half is not good, because the second half is incredible. It's just not as compelling as and interesting as the first half. Arlie Ermy gives a performance for the ages. It's insane. Private Pile, well, it's Private Pile. That's what everyone remembers about the movie. It's tragic. Private Joker is one of my favorite Kubrick characters of all time. He's just super interesting, and I love his helmet and the peace symbol. I love the inner workings of Private Joker as a character. The second half, though, is definitely a bit more dragged on than the first half. The first half flew by, and it is incredible stuff, but the second half is still really, really, really good. It's just not as engaging. I think you have a couple really good characters in there. Like, I love Cowboy. I love Mother Animal, or Animal Mother. I can't remember which way it goes, but love him as a character. It's just a great movie, and if you haven't seen it, what are you doing? Go watch it. It's one of his most iconic films in my eyes. All right, number 4, I have Clockwork Orange. Now, this is a movie I don't have a lot to say about because I don't really know what to say about it. This is one of the only movies that I have ever watched that I don't know why I like it so much. It's just such an interesting story in my eyes. It really just delves into what makes a person so evil and like what that person thinks and feels. For me, I guess the movie kind of creates sympathy for Alex, even though he is a detestable stain of the world. It's just such an interesting look into this character and what he does. And I love, I mentioned this in my what I watched in January, but the way that it feels nightmarish at some points and then it just snaps out of it in the second half. I love that so much. I think it's so interesting. I just think this is such an interesting movie, and there's so much to say about it that I really can't get into it. It's kind of like Eyes Wide Shut, where there's just so much to say that, I mean, I don't have time. Like, I'm at the beach, yo. I gotta go. I mean, Garrison's sitting right over there waiting for me to wrap up. I gotta wrap this thing up. So yeah, there's just so much to say about Clockwork Orange that I really can't get into. All I know is that I really, really enjoyed this movie. And yeah, that's all I have to say. I don't know why. I just do. Okay, number 3, 2, and 1 are all 5 stars and are all near perfect movies in my eyes. Starting with Dr. Strangelove, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb. This movie is his only comedy, and it is hilarious. It is so genius and brilliant, taking what should be kind of a serious situation and turning it into something so silly and goofy and comedic. Peter Sellers gives one of my favorite performances I've seen. I mean, he plays 3 characters, which is mind-blowing to me. This movie, like, everybody knows it's incredible. Everybody knows Dr. Strangelove. I mean, it's just such an iconic movie in my eyes. And it's just, I loved everything about it. I love the way that all the different subplots kind of intertwined so perfectly. It's very messy and it's slow paced, but it all just builds up to this absolutely bonkers ending that is so perfect for the movie. Everybody in this movie delivers with a stellar performance, just so, like, great camera work with Kubrick, some of the most iconic shots in all of cinema ever. I mean, you know what shot I'm talking about. The bomb, and he's riding it like a cowboy. That shit is hilarious. The story is incredible. The phone call with Dimitri is one of my favorite scenes of Kubrick. Just everything about Strangelove is incredible. And I can't believe he made 2 films that are even better than this. All right, number 2, I have The Shining. Now, most of you probably don't know what The Shining is. The Shining is definitely one of his more underground films, and I'll stop trying to be funny now. Everybody knows The Shining. Everybody loves The Shining, except my mom. It's just, it's an icon of cinema. You've 100% seen a reference to it at some point. I mean, Here's Johnny, one of the most iconic scenes in all of cinema. It baffles me that Stephen King actually hates this movie. It is insane to me, because this is one of the most interesting movies I've ever seen. It's one of the most effective thrillers because you just feel so unease watching it. You try to figure out what is all at play here, which I love movies like that. And that final frame of that picture is actually so haunting in my eyes. It's such an effective final frame. It's just so good. Jack Nicholson gives a performance of all time. Shelley Duvall, despite the controversy surrounding her and her treatment during sets, she gives a great performance. It baffles my mind that Kubrick and Shelley Duvall all got nominated for a Razzie Award, it blows my mind. This movie and Fight Club, I put as the movies that critics got so wrong, but eventually came around to. Everybody knows The Shining. I'm gonna stop talking about it because it's The Shining. And my number 1 favorite Kubrick movie, Paths of Glory. Probably didn't see that coming, and you know what? Neither did I, because I don't love war movies all that much. Like I already said, I think Full Metal Jacket kind of fell off on the second act compared to the first. This movie did not. This movie is everything that I like in a movie. Phenomenal characters, phenomenal performances, a great story, the camera work. This is Kubrick's first film that I really see his style. You got his signature tracking shots, just his zooms, his incredible work that he does in this movie. The story structure is on point in this movie, in my opinion. The story itself is tragic and insanely good at the same time. This movie is just phenomenal in every way. And if you haven't seen it, it is free on YouTube. Whoever decided that, I love you so much. Go watch Paths of Glory. It is my favorite Kubrick film ever made. So yeah, that's my Kubrick ranking. And if you disagree with me, leave it down in the comments below. But I highly doubt that the people who actually are gonna watch this video have seen all 13 Kubrick movies. So out of the ones that you've seen, rank them in the comments. And I hope you guys have a great spring break, if you're on spring break the same time I am. And I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day or night or whenever you're watching this. And yeah, see you guys next time. Bye.